All right. So we are live, my friend. This is Bailey Cooper. Appreciate everybody being here back with another episode of Burn the Ship podcast. With Sajad Husain here, my new friend. Glad to meet you, my friend. Glad to have had the conversations with you that I've already had. You definitely have a unique feel on entrepreneurship in general, which I have been happy to know. Our goal here is to inspire entrepreneurs to go all in on their business. And the way that we want to do that is by being of value to them, providing as much value as we can, and say, hey, that we're here with what little or what abundance that we know to kind of shed some light on that. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people what you do, what your business is, and a little bit about your story. I know that you've had quite the tenure in entrepreneurship, as you say that most of your stuff that you talk about is not backed on bullshit, that you've lived through a lot of that stuff. So tell us a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about your tenure in business.
All right. Well, first off, my business is cause and effect. I'm helping you become extremely well organized, which significantly increases your productivity and substantially reduces your stress. So I run people through a 6-week business development boot camp where I beat them with a stick. Uh, my start in entrepreneurship was when I was 8 or 9 years old. I used to catch snakes in the forest and sell them to the pet store for $1 each. And then, of course, I did the normal kid entrepreneurship stuff. So lemonade stands, babysitting, uh, lawn mowing, all that stuff. Then I went to college, dropped out of college when I was 19, started a clothing company, a publishing company, and a promotions company. Did relatively well, got into all the clubs for free, had a lot of fun. I used to be a professional dancer. I would dance, and the bar owners would give my friends and I free entry and free drinks because I would help the crowd get into the club and the music.
You're the hype man.
Um, yeah, I was a hype man just by dancing. And yeah, I had a clothing company when I was 20. I got 9 stores carrying my stuff in their front window by the time I was 21. I made a lot of mistakes, which taught me how not to do business because entrepreneurship requires trying new things, and a lot of those things may or may not work out. And then later in life, I went to law school, became an attorney. So I had a law firm for 4.5 years. I had a tech company for 6 years doing custom websites, custom CRMs, and business consulting and business development. And then I was a deputy chief of staff with the state for the Department of Children and Family Services, where I did project management. And then I've been running my consulting firm for the past 2.5 years.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about what you said when you were in these like kind of corporate positions. You were in these employee positions. About you never lasted more than 2 years.
I always got promoted in 9 months or less. And then because they would like that I was autonomous and self-motivated and creative and innovative and made stuff happen. But yeah, I'd be fired in 2 years or less because after a couple of years they'd say, you got to stop doing that. The thing they promoted me for, they would tell me I had to stop doing it, and I would say I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. And then they would say, well, what are we going to do here? We're at an impasse. I would
Sure.
say, well, you could fire me. And then they would fire me.
Sure. So you've
So
developed this type of consulting, this experience that you create with your business owner clients of yours, where basically you're holding them extremely accountable for uh, kind of these key performance indicators of your business. You guys are kind of figuring out what it is that is the underlying issue and what is the underlying driver of your business, and kind of figuring out how to spend more time in the right areas, right?
yes, and kind of. So yeah, the accountability coaching definitely. My clients are required for the 6 weeks they work with me to work 12 hours a day. There are no weekends, there are no holidays. You're off 4 hours a day and you sleep 8. That makes up 24 hours in a day. And then when you create your task list, you have it be hour by hour and with quantifiable measurements. So if you say 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., you're going to send emails, or you're going to send 3 emails, or you're going to be send 30 emails. And then you have to hold yourself strictly accountable to what you tell yourself. I don't tell my clients what to do, but they tell themselves what to do, and I make sure they stick to what they said. And that includes, taking care of yourself for an hour a day, hanging out with your husband, your wife, your dog, whatever, taking those 4 hours off as well, but making sure that you're productive in the time that you're working and that you're not just doing stuff. So it's about being your own boss. So people hear about this idea of being your own boss and they think about the positive part, which is the autonomy, but it's also holding yourself strictly accountable, keeping an eye on why you're doing everything that you're doing. What is the ROI and the CAC? What are the quantifiable measurements for all your time and effort? What do you? A lot of people feel stress and overwhelm because they know they're smart and they know they're working really hard, but it's not getting anywhere or it's not getting to where they want it to be. And it's because they're doing a lot of stuff. And when people work with me, they get to learn to identify the difference between productivity and stuff.
Sure. What is that difference if you had to describe it to us? And what is like, how much do you believe that the average successful business owner works? Do you think that you work 12 hours a day forever?
No. And there's a difference between a business owner and a solo practitioner. So if you're a solo practitioner, you are your own boss. You're self-employed, basically. You're working for you. A
Sure.
business owner is where you have managers and a project manager and employees, and you might not work at all or work very little, or you're working on the business as opposed to in the business. But that takes a year or two to develop if you grind really, really hard. I did that with my tech company as well, so I have experience in that. But initially, unless you have a bunch of investment capital, you're doing all the different jobs.
Sure. What does and we were talking earlier about kind of that the reality of entrepreneurship. And you were saying that really what you tell people is that if there's any way for you to be happy and achieve what you want it is without owning a business, without managing all of these things, that's probably what you should pursue. What is like behind the door of entrepreneurship like what is the scary and the ugly of entrepreneurship to you?
Yeah, entrepreneurship is a fantasy like dating a perfect 10. I've done both, and you don't know what it's like until you've done it. It's not what you think it is. She's not that pretty 2 years later. She's just the same girl as she was 2 years ago. And then entrepreneurship is the same thing. It's a fantasy. So people watch Shark Tank and other business shows. They see the billionaires. They see the results of the effort, but they don't see the sacrifice and the suffering and the struggling and the work ethic, the commitment, the failure, because you're trying a lot of new things. As an employee, you don't really try that many things because you're not allowed to try that many things. As an entrepreneur, you're trying new things. I have my clients try 5 new things every 3 months to generate revenue and do quantifiable measurements on everything you're doing. So looking at, you're going to these 3 networking groups. How many clients did you get after 3 months? And then, when you're pitching, when you're presenting your value that you add through your business, whether it's your product or your service, you're going to get turned down a lot, even with qualified leads. Qualified lead is somebody with the money and desire for your services. Even on those, you're not going to land them all, and you can't take it personally. It can't affect your self-esteem or your
Sure.
self-worth. You have to look at it and say, what did I do wrong there? So it's always blame yourself for everything, which is a paradigm shift in thinking. People say they didn't appreciate what I had, or that guy was an idiot, or that woman didn't know what she was thinking. You have to blame you and say, I didn't show enough value, because if I showed enough value, they would have bought. And so every pitch or presentation you're doing where you don't land the deal, you got to reflect on what you did wrong.
Describe to me this process of developing this type of autonomy for yourself.
I don't really know. I think it's an interesting philosophical question, Bailey, because there was somebody that I did a presentation the other day, and somebody in the chat put that entrepreneurs were born and not made. And I wonder about that. I don't have an answer. I'll have an answer in 3 years for you on that one. I'm not sure yet. I know people can be taught skills that are required to be an entrepreneur, but you really got to want it. It's got to matter to you basically more than anything else. As one of my colleagues said, with the holidays approaching, that he has a negotiation with his wife because he likes to work on his business all the time and she wants him to hang out with her. So they have a blocked out time where he's definitely hanging out with his family, but he loves the grind and he's already wealthy. So it's like he's not doing it for money. He doesn't need any more money. He just loves this life.
Sure.
Uh, this life it's really cool when somebody pays you a lot of money for something you invented. I don't know that there's a better feeling than that. That somebody's paying you money off of something you gave birth to. It's just really cool, and to pay all your bills off your own business feels really good as well. But yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I started reading Entrepreneur magazine when I was 12. My mom and dad let us pick out one magazine to get a subscription, and I could have picked out like model airplanes or radio controlled cars, which I was also into. Well, I still love those things, but I picked Entrepreneur magazine, so I think it's in my blood, but I don't know that it has to be that way for everybody.
Sure, sure. I could see that. I think that that desire for competition is definitely something that doesn't come for everybody though. That's something unique that when you want to win and you're that dedicated to building what you've already started to build, that you get this strange addiction to working on your business that is super hard to shake. So I feel that too. I've asked a few people that on the podcast. Do you believe that people are kind of born with that entrepreneurship bug, or do you think that people develop it? And everyone kind of answers that in their own direction, and they see it through their own lens, if that makes sense. They're like, oh, I was born
Yeah.
with it, so I could definitely see it this way. And then some people are like, oh, I worked in corporate for 30 years and then kind of accumulated these skills over time and decided that I could provide a different level of service to a specific niche of clients. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of see that too. um, I think what you're saying is very, very true also about entrepreneurship being a lot less glamorous than than the typical person that isn't an entrepreneur would perceive it to be. It's definitely a lot sexier on paper than it is in practice. And one of the reasons that kind of points me in that direction as well is that when you think about kind of the construction of your brain, right, is you have some people that you have serotonin bursts or dopamine bursts. It just depends on what type of gratification or happiness or what type of happiness that your brain really latches onto, that those people kind of with those addictive personalities for businesses oftentimes become the best entrepreneurs in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a lot, Bailey.
Yeah.
But maybe the answer to the question is both. You can be born an entrepreneur, or you can become one. Maybe that's why there's not an answer, because the
Yeah,
answer is
I
both.
think it's definitely both. I think it's just how your brain works. I think either you get super addicted to it and it's very gratifying to you, because entrepreneurship is gratifying, and it doesn't even always have to be like bottom line gratification. Like, I saw my business go from the red to the black, therefore I am excited about it. Like, just the level of enthusiasm I see some and solo practitioners more so than your actual business owner, like the gratification I see people for hanging new signage in their workspace, or adding some new tool to their belt to be able to give some type of product to other entrepreneurs. Like, I've seen a lot of that, and that's kind of how we get from this. I mean, honestly, burn the ship is a very gratification based thing for us. Is that we want to be able to lift other business people up in general and say, hey, these people know stuff and have insight on business in a way that you don't. So it's kind of that same way. Is that I don't know if we were born podcasters, but we definitely accumulated some skills and wanted to kind of piece them together with our appreciation for entrepreneurship. So I definitely think it's both. I completely agree. What other than
Well, if you don't mind, may I say something on
Yeah, go
something you
ahead.
said there? It's knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's the corporate people that have hired me have actually been the former corporate executives have been the most difficult to deal with from my perspective, because they they don't know what they don't know in terms of entrepreneurship, and they don't realize that when they were with a major corporation as an executive, that they had a sales team and they had the billings people, they had collections, they had marketing, they had everything. They just played their role and they were an expert at what they did. They made 200, 300,000 a year. But they said, oh, well, I do this project and I'm only getting, 200 grand a year. They made $57 million off me this year. But now you're leaving that company, you're leaving the brand that company has built, and you got to do all these other pieces and parts. One of my clients said to me, well, I don't want to do sales. I said, oh, you should go back to
Yeah,
getting a job. You're the
for
main
sure.
sales rep. Even if you hire a sales team, you're the owner of the company now. People are going to want to come to you, and they're going to decide whether they're going to buy or not based on how you present. You can't say to yourself, you got to do a lot of things you're not going to want to do. This is an issue. People focus on the thing they love. They got one thing they love, but then there's all these pieces and parts. So you got to do the administrative work. You got to do the public speaking. You have to do the sales. You have to do the networking. You have to do all these other things that you can't just do the. You can't just do makeup. You can't just do photography. You can't just do writing. There's all the other infrastructure part, planning, accounting, contracts.
Sure.
There's a lot more to being a business owner than the part that you're passionate about.
Do you feel like you can only become a complete business owner by experiencing entrepreneurship in as many different industries as you have? Or do you think that you can get a complete picture of entrepreneurship only owning one business or owning multiple businesses in one industry?
I'm not sure because I've had multiple businesses. I think that there's two ways to climb a mountain. One way is on your own, or one way is with the guru who's climbed the mountain 10,000 times.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I've learned a lot from failing. I've learned a lot from different kinds of mentors and coaches. I also go to experts for things, which is you got to kind of be humble as an entrepreneur too.
Sure.
And people would say I am the opposite of humble, but I am humble in certain kinds of ways. And one of them is like I go to a marketing expert, I go to a professional writer, I go to a professional graphic designer. It's not feeling like you know everything, but you know what you know and you know what you don't know, and you hire the experts for the things that you don't know.
Sure. What type of skills do you feel like you help the people that you work with accumulate beyond that understanding of autonomy and being your own boss?
Skill development, number one, is productivity through organization. That's definitely what 80% of my clients say they get from me. They say they sleep better, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They feel
really add
that
that structure piece.
Yeah, really it's people are afraid of structure, but structure is freedom.
Sure.
People think structure is limiting and confining, and it's not. You get way more done by being highly organized. Like if you wake up and you do stuff, at the end of the day, you're really not going to get much done. If you wake up and start with a task list with specific things to get done with action steps and due dates, time frames, you're going to get like 4 days worth of work done every single day. Another value that I think I add is helping to show people how to show value in what they have. So I just tell them what are the 5 values to each one of your services, and then when you hire me, what are the logistics? What does it look like when somebody hires you? And I think pitching in that particular way, presenting in that kind of way, vastly increases your percentage of land deals. Half my program is philosophical and half of it is practical. It's the paradigm shift in thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, and then the practical skills it takes to be a business owner.
Oh, wow. Okay. What else do you work on beside the pitching aspect of kind of the more practical side of things?
So workshop 1 is branding, pitching, packages, and processes. Workshop 2 is quantifiable measurements, ROI, and CAC. I give people a tool and teach them how to calculate their numbers.
What does CAC mean?
Customer acquisition cost.
Oh, okay.
Taking the amount of money spent divided by the number of clients. You spent $200, you got 2 clients. That's $100 per client. And it's important to know your numbers because if you made 600 but you spent 500, you didn't make 600, right? You didn't gross versus net. And then week 3 is mapping. So your personal nut break even, your professional break even, and including everything in there. So personally, are you paying for Zoom? Are you paying for Netflix? Are you paying for Sirius XM? Everything you're paying for. And professionally, you have the accounting, you have the attorneys, you have marketing, you might have professional development. You hire people like me, that should be included in your business costs, your cell phone, tech upgrades, but making sure you know all your exact numbers because you want to know what goal you have to hit to break even. And even 80% of my clients they're in the stage of birth to 5. 20% of them are multimillionaires with multiple companies. And even when I work with those clients, one of them had 4 companies. And when we really drilled down on the numbers, he said this one's making me a whole lot of money and not that much effort. This one's taking a lot of effort, not making me a whole lot of money. He said, I'm going to quit that. I'm going to close that company down. I said, well, that's the point of this exercise.
Sure.
Take a real deep dive on where is all your time and money being spent, and then have an overall goal. Overall goal is I want to make 10,000 extra a month, 20,000, 30,000. No number is irrational or unreasonable, but a dream without a plan is a wish. So it's mapping it out into smaller goals to get to the bigger goal. And you need action steps, due dates, and milestones. So what needs to get done for each goal to happen? How many parts are there? Label all of them. Put a due date on each part, and then a milestone is how are you going to assess whether that was a successful endeavor or not?
Sure.
So I sponsored a golf course, for example. If I don't have 5 clients in 2 months, then that was not a good investment. I'm projecting and making up a number, but at least I have a set thing that I'm aimed for in order to define success.
Sure. Well, just to kind of sum up what we've been talking about, I think that a lot of people approach entrepreneurship with I have to sleep less mindset. And I think hearing what you're saying is refreshing because you don't have to sleep less. You can still sleep your 8 hours a day. But the message that you're giving is sprint now while there is sprinting to be done in your business so that you set yourself up for success in a way that you're not sprinting 12 hours a day in the same direction forever. And as a sales rep, I understand that. As a sales rep of a product that creates residual income, I absolutely speak that language like no other. So, what you're saying definitely resonated with me. I feel it and I echo it 1,000 times over, especially for my other young sales reps out there. If you're 24 or 25 in your 20s, selling stuff and you really don't have a clear understanding of what your next steps are, I definitely can be a resource to you. If you are in that business owner, solo practitioner space and you're looking for someone that's walked all those walks in entrepreneurship, I think Sajad your guy. So I think that, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today and giving us the info that you said. If you have any other pieces of advice that you want to give some of these young entrepreneurs that make up our audience, feel free. And then I just got one more, actually I got two more questions for you after that.
All right. Well, I only went through half my program, so I'll quickly name some keys in the other parts. So, on negotiations and closing deals, always take yes for an answer. So as soon as they're ready to take your money, shut your stupid mouth and take the money. Don't oversell because you'll talk yourself out of the deal. Don't submit written proposals with numbers on them. All people are going to do is look at the numbers. If they say, "How much do you charge?" Say, "Well, we need to get together to discuss what it is you're looking for." Right? Because you want to show value before discussing price. If they say submit a written proposal after you talk to them, say I'll put that together. We'll circle back and have a quick meeting to ensure we have a meeting of the minds that what you wanted is everything I put in the proposal. When they say how much does this cost, that means they're ready to buy. Then when you say how much it costs, say it confidently, say it clearly, and then shut your mouth. Whoever talks first after the number is named loses. Um, yeah. And then on the three keys, the mentality of entrepreneurship, number one is persistence. You keep going and going and going no matter what. However, you want to be stubborn, but not stupid stubborn. So you want to keep an eye on that mapping. You want to keep an eye on the ROI and CAC because you don't want to be doing things based on feelings. You want to do them based on logic. So if it's not working after 3 months, stop doing it and try something else. Number two is sacrifice, giving up something in order to get something. You can't have it all. So if you're going to live as an entrepreneur, you're going to give up a lot. But if you really love your business, I have my clients work 12 hours a day. I work 16 to 19 hours a day, 7 days a week, no weekends, no holidays. I love what I do. This is, if you do what you love for a living, you never work a day in your life. This is not work for me. This is what I would be doing if nobody paid me. I don't need to work this hard. Really. The house is paid off, the car is paid off. I don't have to work this hard. But I love what I'm doing. But that's the sacrifice you got to make. You got to be dedicated to this. And the third thing is organization, which is structure, logistics, protocol, and processes. So the infrastructure behind your business. What does it look like when somebody hires you? What does each process and stage of working with you look like? Having the infrastructure is extremely important as well. Otherwise, you're just winging it.
Sure. A lot of us are winging it. A lot of us are definitely
most
winging
people
it.
live in chaos, Bailey.
For sure.
Most people are living in chaos.
I believe that, and I didn't believe that until I started working in an industry where you handle financials for business owners. Like I see that. I get calls from customers that are in full panic mode because they've forgotten their password to get into their virtual terminal to run payments, and they've got a client right there trying to pay them. But there's so many other things that you do to insulate yourself from losing that deal before that. And a lot of those things are the skills that you just mentioned. Like over talking yourself out of a deal was a big thing that I had an issue with as a young sales rep because the first 6 months, I did a bunch of deals because I could go around my hometown. I could tell people who I was. I could tell people a little bit about my industry, and I could tell people what I sold. Well, 6 to 18 months in, my industry knowledge ballooned to an astounding level that you basically never get from somebody that sells credit card process. And I know so much about my industry now because I genuinely became interested in the technology of the industry that I learned a tremendous amount about it. And I also learned immediately how fast you can talk yourself right out of a sale. Like if you start describing interchange and credit card processing costs behind the scenes to people when they ask how much does this cost, they're going to freak out and lock their door and shut down and kick you out. So a lot of those skills that you have to practice, that you have to really think of when you're positioning your pitch and you're figuring out what it is that you're going to sell to people. The last couple of questions that I have for you is I wanted to ask you, how do people get in touch with you for sure? What is the best way for people to find you?
I'm pretty popular on LinkedIn, uh, but also my name's Sajad. My last name's Husain. If they go to causeandeffectconsulting.com, there's a link there. I offer a 30-minute complimentary conversation. So, and I will research you for a half hour to an hour before I meet with you. I will give you as much value as possible, and I don't do hard sales. My version of selling is to add value and as much value as possible, where people basically convince themselves they need to hire me. I don't use stupid sales techniques, and I don't push to close
Sure,
deals. I close deals, but I don't push to close them.
sure.
I just show people
Just
how I
wait
can
till
help
people
them so
ask
they
you how
can
much
jump
it
on.
is.
So they can jump. Well, I don't even charge for a half hour, and I'll add as much value as possible, so they can just jump on my calendar.
Yeah, but when they get that half hour and you're 26 minutes in and they ask you how much it is, it's
Yeah,
yeah, you're
then
definitely
we're
closing
doing
that
a
deal,
deal,
huh?
baby.
Yeah.
It's deal time.
The last question I had for you was this podcast is called Burn the Ship. Obviously, our goal is to connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. What do you say, honestly, to all of those people out there in the world that are weighing their options about whether they should whether they should own a business or not?
Yeah, if you don't have to do it, don't do it. It takes a lot. Make sure you're going to be. It's not going to just be the fun part. I got a quick story for you. I'm going to live on the road for the next 4 months, right?
Wow.
And I'm fixing up. Yeah, I got a trailer and a truck, and I have internet anywhere, so I'm still running my company. But all I was thinking about was the logistics. There's a lot to the business, and I wasn't thinking about the fun part. So I had a couple of friends this week that called me, and they're like, This is so exciting. You're gonna be living on the road." I said, "I forgot about the fun part." I think a lot of people, when they think about entrepreneurship, they're thinking about the fun part, getting to do what they want. Well, there's a lot more pieces to getting your truck ready for the road. You got to focus on You need to talk to somebody too that knows what are all the parts, because there's a lot more to it than what you think.
Sure. Sure. There absolutely is. Well, that's all I have, my friend. This has been Burn the Ship. I appreciate you again. Just say thanks again. If you have anything that you want to close us with, go ahead, but that's what we have.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it, Bailey.
Cool. Yeah. All right. I appreciate you. See you soon.